With that, we're going to move on to departmental reports. We usually start with the police report, but my understanding is we don't have Lieutenant Calderwood today. So we're going to wait for her next month to give us I'm sure she was busy over the holidays and all the craziness 2020 ended. So we're going to move to number 2, semi-annual transportation report.
Excuse me, I was muted. Yeah, can you confirm, are you seeing the full screen from the animation? Or are you seeing the one with the...
Not the full screen.
We're seeing all your slides on the left.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Let me try and reshare this, excuse me. Okay, how about that?
There you go.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. I'm pleased to be giving actually our 5th semi-annual transportation report. So before I get started, I just wanted to wish you all a Happy New Year. I can tell you, for me at least, I'm glad to see the last year go behind us. On the downside, there was a lot of challenging issues, and I think some of the more challenging issues were tied to all the emotional swings that came along with all the large events which we experienced over last year. But of course, I like to try and end things on a positive note. On the more positive side, I actually started with the city just before that last New Year. And over the last year, I got the experience to work with my tremendous department team and work on the exciting projects within the city, and with, of course, this incredible commission who puts a lot of time and energy into furthering the projects for the city. So that's what I really appreciated about last year, and really excited to continue the work into this new year. So let me see if I can continue on. So the recommended actions are to, 1, to receive the report. Secondly, to provide any comments from your commissioners on this report. And then lastly, we want to determine which commissioner will present the report to the City Council on January 19th. So the meeting coming up. A little bit of background on the objective for this report is back in March 20th, 2018, the City Council directed staff to report back twice a year on the progress of multimodal transportation initiatives. Staff made the last presentation in July of 2020. That was just a few months after the COVID-19 response issues had started. Again, the focus of this report is to provide an update on the 6 months accomplishments and the 6 months goals of the department. And I'm going to keep it at a pretty high level because as you can see in the staff report, which was presented to you, there's a long list of projects we've been working on, both the accomplishments, which I'm really happy to report upon, and then of course our next 6 months goals. So I'll keep it at a high level and just want to leave you plenty of time to ask any questions you may have. So starting off with the street and storm drain maintenance division, there's 9 bullets that are included in the agenda report, and I won't take the time to go through those 9 bullets, but you can see on your screen in front of you, we did over the last 6 months continue putting up the informational signs regarding information we wanted to pass along to the public, and maintaining our downtown signage for our hands-free pedestrian crossings. I did want to follow up on a particular topic which I brought up during the last report, and if you recall, this was a video and some pictures I took on Merwin Drive, and this was a result of the April 10th storm event we had, which was after like 4 days of raining. And I'll just play it for you. I don't think you could probably hear the sound. So I did want to, I'm pleased to report that our street and storm drain maintenance division worked with our CIP engineering and assets division to address the situation so we would not have similar flooding in future storm events. And this is a picture that I took on December 29th, which was last week. And that was following a rain event that delivered over a half of inch of rain. So of course, we were all focused on making sure that we didn't have a similar ponding or flooding issue on the street. And we did accomplish that goal. The first measure was to actually install a new overflow structure, which is shown here. And our maintenance group worked with our engineering team. And not only did they help fine tune the issue, but as a result, they actually created this nice looking drainage outlet, which shows a whale fluke, which serves as a drainage outlet. So, you know, they look to improve the aesthetics of areas where they can. And I think this is a good example. But just to show you, just to give you some engineering backgrounds on flooding issues, if you look at the bottom part of that drainage outlet, it looks like an inlet, but it's actually an outlet where the bottom of that fluke would be, or the whale's tail. That elevation is a standing water elevation that is throughout that storm drain. So that elevation there is roughly 3 inches below the curb inlet elevations on Merwin Drive. So, you know, my hat's off to both the maintenance division and our engineering division for looking at the exact elevations and determining what the appropriate path forward was so that neighborhood would not experience that the flooding issues, and then we can continue on to look at what further improvements we need to make for that drainage infrastructure. So then moving on to our traffic division, the 6 months accomplishments. And our traffic division, that group, that team of engineers and support group, they help out our entire department. So on many of these projects, like I showed, the maintenance division helps out with our CIP engineering and asset management group, same as the traffic division. They're involved in almost all of the CIP projects. They help out with Nathan and his planning and mobility division on like the growth management plan reports, which you've seen several times or many times before. So this team's a pleasure to work with. I can't say enough about them. And so I'm just going to highlight a few of their 6 months accomplishments and along with their 6 months goals. They completed design for the hybrid pedestrian traffic signal at Tamarack Avenue and Valley Street. They started the design of the speed feedback signs on College Boulevard between Cannon Road and the northern city limit. And they started the design of the pedestrian and bicycle enhancements on Carlsbad Boulevard, at the marked crosswalks at the Army Navy Academy, Oak Avenue, Sycamore Avenue, Maple Avenue, Cherry Avenue, and Hemlock Avenue. And I also wanted to highlight a couple of other key projects which they're leading, and that is the traffic calming program. And in the report, we reported that they completed an additional 9 streets of traffic calming measures. And in this graphic, you can see in blue, the blue dots, it shows another 8 projects which are in progress, and then 5 additional projects in the future. And then another particularly high profile project or program under their umbrella is the traffic signal program. And as you've heard in earlier reports, our highest priority for this program is to connect our traffic management center to the new fiber optic system, which is being implemented in the city. and is actually, well, it's being implemented as of today, and we're going to be able to hopefully connect to this new fiber optic system within the next several months. So that's really big news. Like, that's going to improve our communications on this traffic signal program tremendously. And our goal is to continue working on 3 more adaptive corridors, and then bring to the commission and then ultimately the city council a final report on our accomplishments by probably late spring of this year. So that's another important item. And then lastly, I just wanted to end with that group that they have taken the lead with the local roadway safety plans. We have issued an RFP, and we're initiating that effort. And the project timeline looks between like 6 to 9 months. So you should be receiving some information on that, of course, in upcoming future, like probably 8 to 9 months out from now. Moving on to our transportation engineering and asset management group. Again, this group is in charge of delivering what seems like an endless list of projects. It's when you look at that exhibit 1, which is provided in your staff report, it's just amazing the amount of work which this group is responsible for overseeing. And even in the staff report, I won't cover all of the bullet items which are included under this division, just because it would just take too much time. And then additionally, so many of their projects, I wanted to highlight a few of them, but honestly, to me, and maybe it's because I'm an engineer and you know, I really get excited by this stuff, but they're all so exciting, I don't know which ones to highlight. So I'll leave it to you to ask the questions on this, but I just wanted to, I guess, to highlight that the group is working hard, even with the COVID constraints, or I guess I could call them constraints, like, you know, we have to maintain social distancing and all the things which we're familiar with. The group has continued to work and deliver projects, and I'm very impressed with that, with their progress. So I'll leave it to, I'm sure you've reviewed the exhibit 1 and their accomplishments list. I'm happy to answer any questions, and Mr. Ajide and his team's happy to answer any questions you have on that list. I did want to highlight one particular project, and that's the College Boulevard Extension project. We did tell you earlier that and we did accomplish the goal to actually issue the RFQ or the request for qualifications last month. And so we did that. And so that's out on the streets. And it is targeted to bring before the city council for the award for the preliminary engineering design in the middle of this year. So that should be coming before you as well.
That is impressive.
Well, that's just one, and honestly, that's one small task. Some of the other things that I really would love to highlight, but it would just take too long, or a lot of the other projects which that group is working on. And again, a lot of our work effort is overlapping. So when we're talking about these large scale projects like intersection improvements at Tamarack Avenue and Carlsbad Boulevard, that discussion team often involves not only the CIP engineering team, but also John Kim and his group, and then Nathan as well. So it's definitely a group effort on many of our projects. So,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead. Was there a comment?
It's impressive because we're not really used to being promised stuff and actually getting it done. So we're really excited about that.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but I can tell you that our goal is to, act transparently and to meet our mark. So I'll leave it at that, but thank you.
She meant in the past.
Okay, all right, well.
That's not a current.
Yes,
Yeah,
I mean, yes,
right.
not
well,
right now.
Yeah, well, we're doing our best. So just moving on, and again, this is on our planning and mobility division. There's 6 months accomplishments. I'll just highlight a few. As you know, Nathan's acting as the liaison for this commission. The city council adopted your work plan for the commission for this fiscal year. The group is continuing to lead the Transportation Demand Management Program. Another big one with this last year, which I was pleased to check off the list, or nearly check off the list. We still have one more report. That's the finalized FY 18-19 annual GMP monitoring report, and present the multimodal level of service methodology to the Traffic and Mobility Commission for the first time. And then the 6 months goals are listed. I think you're all very familiar with those, considering we've been talking about them over the last several months. So I won't go into detail on that, but I did want to end that goal discussion with the Sustainable Mobility Plan draft, which, as you know, is being presented to the City Council this month. So that's very exciting news. And again, it's a pleasure to work with that division. As one of your commissioners said, they seem to have all the hotbed items or hot topic items to discuss. And the group is a pleasure to work with and has a really positive attitude. And so just to wrap it up, again, we're really happy to answer all your questions, but our department focus is to implement the projects in a timely and well-vetted and cost-effective manner. And staff looks forward to continuing to work with your commission, the Traffic and Mobility Commission, to optimize the public input process and well-vetted public projects to help produce the best projects possible. And not only that, but in the most cost-effective manner possible. So I'll end it at that, and we open it up to any questions you may have. And actually, before I end it at that, I did want to remind you that one of your actions, besides providing comments, would be to determine which commissioner will present at our City Council meeting presentation on January 19th. So with that, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. You guys are doing an amazing job. We're just getting used to receiving all this amazingness. So thank you. Do we have any commissioner comments? Okay, I see one. Commissioner Wanamaker.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Frank. I understand that you're new with the city, and I want to say thank you for the first thing is the automatic walk signal devices that have been installed, especially in the village area. It's very helpful. Also, I had a question about your storm drain problem out there on that street that you mentioned. We did have some rainfall last year, but 2 years ago, December 2018, there was much more rain in a huge incident. And I'm wondering if that particular storm drain failed at that time. And if it didn't, what caused it to fail this last time?
Yeah, so I can start off answering it with, I can get back to you regarding the particular storm event which you're referring to. I can tell you the challenge with that subdivision and the issue which we're addressing now is the adjacent detention basin or sedimentation basin, which I have pictures of. Basically, it's the existing water table is roughly 2 feet below that discharge elevation, which I showed you, which is merely just inches below the inlet elevation. So we're looking on how we can address that that retention basin issue.
Okay, thank you.
But and if you want, if you want more information about the previous event, if it flooded, I will get back to you, unless if Mr. Ajide knows information on that event.
Well, I mean, my question was also wondering if the storm drains in the various neighborhoods are being plugged up by stuff off the road or refuse or trash, and how do we address those things?
I can address that. So we do have an annual program to clean our storm drains, and we there's also a program to install more inlet filters to prevent trash and debris from making its way through the storm drain down into our receiving waters and ocean and beaches. So that's how we address the debris issue going into our storm drains. Some of the challenging issues, especially in this area, is the adjacent hydrology issues. And so that's what's challenging and complicated about this issue. So Mr. Ajide's team is further looking at how we can solve the engineering issues presented on this particular project.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Linke, did you have a comment or question?
Yeah, thank you. I had one PowerPoint slide that in the absence of any objection, maybe Mr. Schmidt could put it up. But first,
or Mr. Schmidt, do you want to put it up? I've got it here if you want me to try and share it.
It's already up.
Oh, okay. Too slow.
actually, it's the one slide is the next one. So the first I wanted to say that this is a fantastic report. I think that the level of, the summary and the level of detail and the status updates on the CIP projects is great and greatly appreciated. And many thanks to Mr. Frank and all the staff who are behind it. My main concern and question is about these guidelines and program updates that are on our next 6 month list. And I just want to emphasize that I think it's really important that we be given an opportunity to meaningfully review these things as soon as absolutely possible. The reason I say this is, so I joined the commission almost 2 years ago now, and ever since then I've been closely following development projects in Carlsbad that impact mobility. And I've submitted many public comments and made many suggestions for the developer to fund mitigation of their traffic impacts. And this is under both the state CEQA process for environmental impact reports and for Carlsbad's own growth management plan. There's sort of two paths that they need to be reviewed on. And as examples, I've proposed lane capacity improvements, addition of new turn lanes, extension of existing turn lanes. And for transit, I've proposed things like adding shelters and lighting and other amenities at our currently pretty terrible bus stops. And for bicycles and pedestrians, I've suggested things like increased bike storage at the sites and at bus stops, adding crosswalks and adding lighting. And I believe all of these suggestions have been justifiable based on this list of documents that we have here and others. But of the probably dozens and dozens of suggestions I've made, I don't think a single one of them, no matter how small, has ever been considered or agreed to by the community development staff. So I think there's a disconnect. We clearly, with this report, we've made a lot of great progress, and there's great transparency, and a lot of things are getting done. But I think on the other side, in community development, there's a disconnect, and it's the rules that are set up with these documents, just they find every imaginable excuse or loophole to avoid having to comply with them. And so it's very important that we look at these soon. And I want to provide just a few examples. So the TIA guidelines were published in April of 2018 to comply with the legal settlement. And they define the types of mobility impact studies that must be done under both CEQA for environmental impact reports by the state and Carlsbad's GMP growth management plan. However, when I cite these guidelines, these TIA guidelines, and the CEQA requirements for vehicle and MMLOS analysis, the community development staff has claimed on multiple projects that they don't have to follow them because they've never undergone public review or adoption. But it's staff themselves that have not brought these to us for public review or to the council for adoption. So if these TIA guidelines were written to comply with a legal settlement, but then apparently they don't have to be followed because the same people that wrote them refused to present them to us for a public vetting and council approval. So it needs to be done. And at one point, they went even further and claimed that not only did they not have to follow the TIA guidelines for CEQA, but that they had a letter from a city attorney indicating that they should not follow them. And when I asked for a copy of that letter justifying not following the TIA guidelines for CEQA, they said I can't see it because it's attorney-client privilege. And so this kind of nonsense, I think we need to put it to an end, and our public vetting of the TIA guidelines and other documents should be able to hopefully put an end to these kinds of shenanigans where we don't have to follow the rules or we can't follow the rules. And for many of the methods described in the TIA guidelines, the developers are allowed to choose whichever method they would like, or they can choose an outside method to substitute for it if that helps them. And of course, they're always going to choose the method that's the least, that requires the least mitigation. And in one recent case, staff was going to let them use the old Carlsbad method that gives all level of service A results rather than the new guidelines that we're using for our GMP monitoring, which is just insane to me. And for the MMLOS, even the sort of the reduced requirement under GMP as opposed to CEQA, the bar is set so low that meaningful changes aren't going to occur. So fortunately, we have an ad hoc committee that's working on the MMLOS guidelines, and so hopefully we can make those more meaningful. And finally, the traffic impact fee program and the transportation demand management program are also very interesting. So staff has imposed theoretical requirements on past residential developments that they should contribute TDM funding to help mitigate their traffic. And these go before the Planning Commission and the City Council with this condition of approval that you have to contribute funding to a TDM program in order to develop. But then later, they waive the requirements. They know you don't have to pay, you don't have to do this TDM thing because it's not in the traffic impact fee program. But similar to the TIA guidelines, it's staff themselves who have failed to include a TDM program in the traffic impact fee program. So then later they can waive that requirement, and there doesn't have to be any contribution by the developers. And more recently, they have required residential developments to create a TDM plan, but we don't have a residential TDM program. So they're using the commercial TDM program, but they're vastly reducing the requirement based on the amount of traffic that's being produced. So, and it wouldn't surprise me that if in the future they waive that requirement too, say, well, we never could require the developer to pay for these TDM or conduct these TDM plans because we didn't have a residential TDM program. So that's my sort of rant again, but I want to end on a good note that I'm really pleased with this report and all the progress that's been made and the level of detail and the status updates on all the CIP programs. It's great. I think the transportation department is really on the right track and very organized, transparent, everything. But the review of these programs and the way that our commission sees them and our ability to provide input is really important to me. So after all that lengthy background, I guess my first question is, what is the plan? Is there a plan to get these programs to us in the next 6 months, and in what format?
Yeah, so there is a plan, which obviously all the items which you had on that slide are in your work program. We don't have a specific timetable developed, but that's something we are working on internally. And one of the items which you mentioned was the traffic impact analysis guideline update. So yeah, like I can't answer to the past issues, but I can tell you that those all will be presented to you. We can on a future date share with you once we further develop our target schedule on when we can get you these items, because it is in your work plan. And I think we could share that with you through Mr. Kim's report. I can also add that you mentioned a couple of important words in your descriptions, and that's nexus. And of course, if a project is being conditioned, you have to have a nexus to condition the project with. So, we'll work through all those issues. The last thing I wanted to mention, and actually I find it being a positive and a highlight, is that these updating all of these items, the traffic impact fees, the traffic impact analysis, with all the changes that have occurred in the traffic planning arena in the industry today, with all the change in focus, which it's exciting. It's a good thing, right? But it's all new, and being new, there's not a lot that we can ride the coattails on. So part of our approach will be to see how we can update these important items in a really effective cost-effective, efficient manner that makes sense. And that's why I'm actually excited about it, because it's exciting stuff. That's why, sometimes I seem stressed out. At the end of the day, when I go home, I'm like, hey, I get to work on really exciting stuff. So it might be stressful at times, but it's good and it's exciting. So I'll just leave you that we'll come back to you with our target schedule, and then we'll be always transparent in what the issues are and what our suggestions are for the best path forward, and that's how we'll approach it. So with your help, we'll get through it, and we'll, in the end, we'll have updates to these important topics that we can all support and make recommendations to City Council that we feel confident in. So thank you for your comments. Your comments are received.
Okay, I appreciate that. I obviously have some very specific changes that I'm interested in making based on a compiled list of all of the loopholes and exceptions and excuses I've seen over the past 2 years to those documents. There's a large number of them. And the sooner the better, because projects continue to be reviewed, and they're almost all residential, not commercial, but they're almost all residential, and we need to address those items. And then my second and final question, there were 3 CIP projects in the exhibit that I was curious if if our commission is going to be seeing them. It didn't say that they were coming back to our commission. One of them was Carlsbad Boulevard and Tamarack Avenue pedestrian improvements, which is number 6051. The Terramar Area Coastal Improvement Project, which is 6054. And the Valley Drive and Magnolia Avenue Complete Streets. I think we talked about that one at our last meeting, and you said that was going to come back, but it didn't say in there that it was going to. So I just wanted to ask if those 3 projects, if we would have a chance to see them again before the next step.
What was that? Definitely the Tamarack,
yeah,
Carlsbad Boulevard. Yeah, I almost gave that as an example. That will definitely be coming back to you. And of course, the last one. What was the second project you referenced?
I think the second one was the same one that Commissioner Pensiers highlighted in his message. It was the Terramar Area Coastal Improvement Project 6054. I'm not sure.
Okay, if that's the Terramar one, maybe I'll have Hossein give an update on that, because my understanding is that's been we're actually working for a coastal development permit and going through the environmental on that. So Hossein, can you provide an update?
Absolutely. Like Mr. Frank said, we are in the environmental and CEQA documentation for that project. So the design has not officially started, and we will definitely bring that project to Traffic and Mobility Commission once we have preliminary design to get your early feedback on it.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have.
Okay, do we have any other commissioners' comments? Okay, Commissioner Pensier.
Okay, I guess maybe Nathan could share the screen where I had a photo of the MUTCD roundabout, or else I can do that perhaps.
I can share it one moment, Commissioner.
Okay. Or maybe I could do it. I don't know. Yeah, that's it. Oh, maybe that was my screen.
Yeah, I've got it here. All right, should be sharing right now.
Okay, and then we can, if you can run that down to the
Yeah, this guy.
that page there. Yeah, right. So, okay, so this is a drawing that I've doctored up a little bit because I put some highlighter on all the sharrows that are included in this drawing. This comes out of the MUTCD, and the intersection shown here is very, very similar to the one that would be installed at Cannon and Carlsbad Boulevard, except that the left side would not exist at all. This would be a roundabout on training wheels, so to speak, similar to the one at State Street and Carlsbad Boulevard. On the other hand, the last time I saw a drawing on this proposed roundabout, there was an additional right-hand, a right turn only, a free right turn from northbound Carlsbad Boulevard onto eastbound Cannon. And in doing that, this would, in my view, this would be very difficult for cyclists to navigate, given that there are so many different kinds of cyclists out there. The ones that have been riding for 30 or 40 years and have commuted and have seen it all will have no trouble with this. But the vast majority of cyclists are going to get to this and try to ride as far to the right as they can get. And then if they try and go straight, they're going to get right hooked. And so my concern here is that if that free right turn is not necessary, it should go away. And regardless of whether it goes away or not, it will be vitally important that the sharrows that are shown here be included before this in the design. In other words, not, okay, well, we're going to install this and then we're going to open it up. And then if we have problems, then maybe we'll put some sharrows in. We should do that the other way around. We know we're going to have trouble. This is a highly used bicycle route. And unless we educate the cyclists and the motorists how to get through this, we will have the same kind of issue that other cities have had when they've tried to introduce things that they did not provide for a good multimodal level of service. So this would be a very car-centric roundabout with that free right turn. And so I just wanted to get that out there for consideration before we get past the point where changes can be made. This is another project that bypassed the Traffic Safety Commission the first time and actually went to the City Council before we even had a chance to look at it. So we've only seen it for information only. And I just hope that this time we can have a significant impact on the final design, and especially the striping and the sharrows in this case. So I've already been told today that this will come back to us, and I'm happy to hear that. And I want to second Commissioner Linke's extensive review, and say that we're looking forward to working with the staff to make these changes right at the start of a project rather than at the last minute, and or having to correct things later. And what I'm referring to there is the disaster that occurred on Cassia when two mini roundabouts, slant traffic circles were installed there, and without any provision for cyclists to get through until later. And by the time they did, it was too late, and the public turned against them and they had to be taken out. So we want to avoid that at all costs because I'm a huge fan of roundabouts. And if we don't do this right, we're going to lose the public again. So I guess that's all I have to say. Let's do it right this time.
Yeah, I'll start off by just saying thank you for those comments, and we appreciate the comments early in the as early as we can get them. So I appreciate it.
Okay, any other commissioner comments? Okay, so I've already been summoned to go to the council meeting to present the other item. Is everybody okay with me presenting this item too? Okay. So I got time, so that's good. So then I'll be going and presenting. If anything comes up, I will let you know, but I shouldn't have anything on the schedule for that day. And we did receive the report, so we're good with this item. We can move on.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, commissioners. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Frank, for taking graciously all our comments and concerns and criticism. It's all for the good. Thank you.